Hey guys, welcome back. It's Charles and Z. And thanks to y'all, we were doing so well on our channel. I just checked this morning. We're at 3,200 subscribers.
Are we?
We are.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
So if you haven't yet and you're watching us, please consider liking and subscribing below.
Down below.
That would help us out greatly. And today we're going to talk about something that is actually a user suggested topic. Somebody brought this up in a comment, and we did a video about this a little while ago, and that is combining finances. And specifically, I wanted to go into today about why we don't have a prenuptial agreement. So kind of both things. And let me give you a little backstory. First off, we've talked about this before here. I'm going to put a link to the other video that we did where we talked about combining finances. And so we got married in 2022. And a little background. So Z is a family medicine doctor. When we met, she was in residency.
Yes.
And so when you're in residency, you're not really making very much money. You're primarily learning. And when you finish residency, that's when you go out and you get your regular job as a physician. She finished residency, when was it? June of 23?
Correct.
Right, June of 23. And so we met at the end of 2020. And she had just started residency a few months before we met, and her residency was 3 years. So we knew each other for 3 years before she finished her residency. What am I? I'm like 7 years older than you?
25.
25? I don't know. Who's 25?
25 years older than
25 years older than you? Okay.
Yeah, you're about, I think, 7 years older.
7 years older. And so my career started back in 2003. I'm an actuary. I have worked for other people as an actuary. I've owned a company and I sold it. And now I work as a consultant doing that same thing. And so I'm kind of established in my career. So I've been doing what I do for 23 years now. So anyway, what that all means is that when Z and I met, she was more or less a student and I was somebody who had been working in their field for about 20 something years. And so
really
I had a little
student.
Not really. Okay, not really a student. But I'd had significantly more time to gather some money together. So I came in with a little bit more than her. And now going forward, we pretty much make about the same thing. And that's with me doing, working full time and her working full time. So we got married in 2022 and was it before or it was shortly thereafter that we decided to combine finances. So like you don't have a bank account, I don't have a bank account. We just have a joint bank account. We pay all of our bills out of that. We have a credit card. She has a credit card. I have a credit card. It's the same credit card. It's the same account. So it all goes to the same place. We pay it off every month. So there isn't like a pot of money that she has and a pot of money that I have. We just have our pot of money. And now, I have 2 kids from my prior marriage, and their mom is no longer with us, and so those kids were adopted by Z, and I think that plays a good part or a big role in the decision to combine finances, because I don't look at it as I'm trying to reserve some money behind to save for them to protect them against her, because she is their mom. She adopted them, so she is responsible for those kids just like I'm responsible for those kids. So from the kid's standpoint, I don't feel like there's a need to try to put up any sort of like a wall between our finances. Now let's go on and talk about the idea of the prenuptial agreement. Everywhere I go on social media, I hear people like, oh, prenuptial agreement, make sure you got your prenuptial agreement. I have an attorney friend, and he said, I've never known somebody who had a prenuptial agreement and didn't use it. And that resonates with me because I don't want to go sit down with my wife and talk about all the stuff that's going to happen if we decide not to be together anymore. To me, that doesn't bode well for the future of our relationship. To me, I'm 100% invested. That's where my mindset is. I'm never going anywhere. And I want everything that I do to reflect that 100% investment in our relationship. I don't want to contemplate what happens if we're not together in the future. So that's the way that I feel about it. Now, there's obviously a lot of reasons to have a prenuptial agreement. If two people decide to get divorced, it makes it very easy. Like, this is what the agreement says, so this is what you get and this is what you get. There's a lot of reasons to have that. I don't like it just based purely off of the emotional and the intention that it represents. So that's the entire reason that I don't like it. And to me, that outweighs all the arguments for having one. And so I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
I disagree.
You disagree?
I think it's people will outgrow each other, right? It doesn't have to be, something where there's hostility towards each other. It's a real process of life for some relationships, right? Divorce is a real thing. And protecting yourself, I don't see that as a way of saying, I don't love you or I am planning for us to fail. I think it is being realistic and saying, especially if you have, you're two individuals who are not equally yoked, so to speak. I think I'm not against it if you don't do it, but I realize that there is a place for prenups. I suggested it when we met, and I didn't have a lot, right, when we met. And I don't think, you told me your reasoning behind it, and I mean, for me, it wasn't really a big deal. If you were comfortable not having it, then I was okay with it. But I was just telling you earlier today, if the tables were turned and I had two kiddos from a previous marriage, even if I'm head over heels, in love with you, I would still want to protect my children, and I would do a prenup.
Now let's roll with that scenario. Like, let's say that you had two kids going into the marriage, but let's say that your new spouse adopted those kids. Would you still see the need for a prenup?
If my spouse adopted, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if your spouse made less money than you?
If he still adopted the children, then no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the children are so protecting the children are the big portion of your desire for a prenup.
Yes.
In that scenario.
Yes, because for what I do, I know people talk about they're going to take half and this and that. Whatever you make as a couple, you're going to split in that regards. And even if they, I don't make that much to provide somebody with spousal support or anything of that nature. But even if we separate, I'm not dependent on my partner to support me. I can maintain the lifestyle that I want without my partner if we were to go separate ways.
Ooh, and you just touched on something really good there. Don't forget, the most important asset that you have is your ability to go out and make more money.
Oh, that's really important, because I feel like for every lady, and I don't judge, right? Whatever choice you decide to make, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, because that is a full-time 24/7 job. But just always make sure that you have some kind of skill or trade. Right? And I don't want anyone to plan that the relationship is going to end or things of that nature, but you always want to have some kind of skill or trade in your back pocket. And that can mean sewing, that can mean painting, whatever is your skill, braiding, doing hair, doing nails, something that you can profit off of in the event, right? Whether you lose, hopefully it doesn't happen, but if you lose your significant other or someone decides, they want to go their separate ways from you, always have a trade.
And you're speaking there a lot to the folks who maybe get married very young, right? And maybe one makes a decision like not to go, not to continue education or something like that.
Because I've seen it before where, ladies get married and, they have their children, they're a stay-at-home mom, which, like I said, is a full 24/7 job, but they separate from their significant other, and then they're left in this position where, how do they support themselves, right? They're not getting spousal support, from their partner, their ex-husband, or whoever it is, and they're now struggling how to support themselves and their children. So that's why I think I'm really a big supporter of ladies having some type of trade, just in case. I've always told you that I choose, I should say, to be with you, but I don't need you. And some people can take that in a disrespectful way, and I don't mean that. I think it should be a compliment to Charles that I choose him, right? And by that I mean I choose to love him. I choose to be in a relationship with him. I choose to work hard every day, for us to continue with this life. But in the event that you bump your head, somebody drops a 30,000 pound weight on your head and you lose all your marbles and you start disrespecting me and decide to separate from me, don't see it happening, but you decide to separate from me, I will still be able to maintain the life that I want and support our children, right?
Now tell me this, back to the prenup thing. Has your feeling on the prenup changed at all now that you're making the money that you make versus back when you weren't making very much money?
No, because I'm the one who suggested a prenup even when I wasn't making money. And so I'm even more of a bigger proponent of it with making money. So no.
And I got to share something. So, we're getting, we just sold our house.
Yes.
And we're building a house together.
Yes.
And so full disclosure, so that house was actually, the house we sold was my house. And taking that money and putting it into a house that's our house. And so taking that money and putting it basically from premarital money to in the relationship money. And I, for a hot second, thought, ooh, maybe we should have a post-nuptial agreement, so I can get that back if something happens. But then I'm like, Charles, you're dumb.
Why'd you say that?
Why'd I say that?
Yeah.
Because I got to practice what I preach. Because it's not like I can be anti-prenup just because I don't have all my skin in the game. It's like, okay, I've got to be anti prenup, postnup, even after I got my skin in the game, because it's now that I've got something in there that could be problematic for me if we got divorced. But I still feel the same way about all that stuff because I'm in it for the long haul with you, and that's that.
Now, do you think people that decide to get a prenup, do you think they're planning for the failure of their relationship, of their marriage?
I feel that people have a lot of anxieties.
Okay.
I think that people, especially when they feel like they got something, they want to do everything they can to hold on to it. They're scared to jump into something with both feet. Now, some people get married to the wrong person.
Correct.
And that's, so obviously if you get married to the wrong person, then you want to have a prenup. So it's hard to say oh, this is the thing to do in every situation. I just know that it's the thing to do in my situation because this is how I feel about my situation.
Wait, what? So did you answer my question? It's a lot of words. So
what was your question again?
Oh Lord. My question to you was, do you think the people that decide to get a prenup, do you think they're planning for the failure of their marriage?
I feel like some people who are getting a prenup, or I feel like a lot of the time it's going to be the guys probably pushing for a prenup. I feel like they're already planning they're planning to not put 100% into it.
So yes. is
Yeah,
what you would say.
I feel like a lot of the time, yes, that's an indicator that somebody is already pre-planning to not be together in the future.
Yeah, I disagree in that. And I
Okay.
feel like a lot of ladies now who are, you know, making their money, doing well, or, you know, in their careers, they're requesting to have a prenup too. So I think it's not just the men. And I think they're being smart in that regards. A lot of times you mentioned people don't marry the right person. Sometimes you don't know that until after the fact, right? I would love to sit here and be like, well, you know, you could see all the red flags. You know, I've lived, and there's been times where I thought this person was the one, and they definitely were not. They were far, far, far from the one, right? But hindsight is 2020.
But you never married any of them.
I came close. I came close.
I didn't know this.
Very close, right? And I've had friends, right? And us looking from the outside, we thought they had the perfect, you know, relationship. We never knew
Yeah.
until their marriage progressed or things, you know, kind of exposed themselves. So it's very difficult for me to say that you're planning for the failure. No, I think you're being smart. And don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that not having a prenup is stupid, right? Because we didn't do that, and I think I'm okay with that for lots of different reasons. But I don't knock anyone who plans to do that. I think that is smart. I would recommend for our children, for our daughter, our sons, do the prenup. Unless you guys are both starting at the same place and kind of both have the same trajectory. You know what I mean? Like both working your way up in your respective careers. Yeah.
Okay. And I think also there's a lot of influencers, there's a lot of social media telling you to get a prenup. I think prenuptial agreement, prenup is like a buzzword. You know, I think we're gonna stick it in the description, and we're gonna let the algorithm pick us up, you know, because of it. And I think that a lot of other people do that too. And so I think that you catch a lot of trendy, you know, prenup users out there also.
And I think for me too, also, I come from a family of a lot of independent women, right? I would say the majority of the ladies, well, not the majority, but a good amount of the ladies on my side from my family, are not married. And so I feel like seeing how strong they are, how hard they work, for me, I think that fuels me a little bit more to protect what I work for. And I feel like for our daughter and our sons, that's a big, big, big thing for me. And so I've always grown up with the mindset, you know, make sure you can love someone, just make sure you protect yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And your children, because they're very protective, you know, of their children, as far as ladies on my side of the family.
Now let me throw you something philosophical out there.
Throw me something philosophical.
Okay. Are you protecting yourself more by anticipating the failure of your relationship, or by putting yourself in a situation where you work 100% not anticipating the failure of your relationship?
I don't think it's an appropriate question, because I don't think that you are anticipating the failure of your relationship. That's a very awkwardly phrased question with some bias in there.
You didn't like how I did that?
No. That's a negative, right? So, no, I think, like I said, there's nothing wrong with protecting yourself.
Okay, so that is our conversation. This is part number 2 on our why we combined finances.
Yes.
And of course, we went into why we don't have a prenup this time. So what do you guys think? Tell us below in the comments, you know, what have you done with your spouse? What's your feeling on the subject? I know a lot of people have probably been burned by not having a prenup, but and you know, and this is probably something that is not one size fits all.
And you know what? I think another thing too, when I was talking to you about a prenup before we got married, you were explaining some things, I think, with the law that I think a lot of people don't really realize, right? As far as like marital income, you know, even if you put away money into another account, right, your spouse still has a legal, what's the word?
It's all marital, whether it's in your account or my account. If we made it during our marriage, it's marital assets, and it's going to be split up when we get divorced.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you guys know that, but in my mind, I'm like, it's going into my own personal account. How could he take that? But I didn't really understand, the basic, I guess, law, the legalities of it all.
We're not attorneys, by the way.
If you can't tell.
We're not attorneys.
If you can't tell.
No.
But anyway, that was just something else too that I think also affected or impacted me in regards to whether I would have a prenup or not.
I'll put that video. I think I linked to it earlier. I'm going to put it on the end screen too, so you guys so you guys could see our original combining finances video where we talk about how I scammed her into combining finances.
That's disrespectful. Anyway, as always, guys, thanks again for watching. And remember to like and subscribe down below. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.